Here's something wild. The country America argues with the most is also one of the biggest lenders America has ever had. For years, China held more than $1 trillion of US government debt. That's not a typo. Imagine your loudest rival at work quietly co-signing your mortgage. That's the relationship we're talking about, and most people picture a banker as a bald man in a suit handing you a loan across a desk. But a banker is really just whoever lends you money and expects it back with interest. By that definition, China became one of America's biggest bankers, and it did it without a single billboard. So how does a country lend to another country? Stick with me, because the way this works is stranger than it sounds. Let's clear up a common mistake. Most people think America borrows money by calling China and asking for a favor. That's not how it works at all. When the US government needs cash, it sells little paper promises called Treasury bonds. A bond is basically an IOU. You give the government your money today, and it promises to give it back later, plus a small extra payment for the trouble. Anyone can buy them. You, a pension fund, a small bank in Brazil. China just bought them by the truckload. Think of it like the US selling tickets to its own future income, and China showing up to buy the biggest stack. The genius part? America never had to ask. China lined up willingly because those boring little IOUs solved a very specific problem for China. Here's where it gets personal. Look at the tags on your clothes, your phone, your kitchen gadgets. A huge share say made in China. For decades, China built itself into the workshop of the world. You buy a $15 shirt, and those dollars travel across the ocean to a factory in China. Now multiply that by hundreds of millions of shoppers every single day. China ended up sitting on a mountain of American dollars, more than it could ever spend at home. And dollars just sitting in a vault earn nothing. They actually lose value over time as prices slowly rise. So China faced a rich person's problem. Too much cash, doing nothing. It needed somewhere safe to park that money and earn a little. Guess what's considered the safest IOU on Earth? Real quick, if you've made it this far, I'm guessing you're finding this as fascinating as I do. This channel breaks down how money and technology really work in a new video every week. If that's useful to you, hit like, subscribe, and tap the bell so you never miss one. It genuinely helps us make more. Okay, back to it. Now here's the part that flips everything. You'd assume lending $1 trillion to America gives China huge power over it, like a landlord who can evict a tenant. But the truth is the opposite, and economists have a wry name for it. They call it a balance of terror. Think about it. If China ever dumped all those bonds at once to punish America, it would crash the value of the very bonds China still holds. China would be lighting its own savings on fire to send a message. There's an old banker's saying that fits perfectly. If you owe the bank $1,000, that's your problem. If you owe the bank $1 billion, that's the bank's problem. America owes so much that China is almost trapped into keeping it healthy. The lender became the hostage. So if it's such a trap, why did China keep buying? Here's the clever part most people miss. Buying American bonds wasn't only about earning interest. It was a tool to keep Chinese exports cheap. When China takes its flood of dollars and buys US bonds instead of swapping them back into its own currency, it quietly keeps its currency weaker. A weaker currency means Chinese goods stay cheap for the rest of the world. Cheaper goods mean more factories humming, more jobs, more growth at home. In other words, lending to America was secretly a way of funding China's own export machine. It's like a shop owner giving you a loan so you can keep buying from his shop. You feel helped, but you're really feeding his business. Sneaky and brilliant. So here's what this really means for you. Slowly, China has been letting its pile of US debt shrink from over $1 trillion down by a few $100 billion. It's spreading its money into gold, other countries, and projects abroad, partly to depend less on America. When a giant buyer steps back, America has to find new lenders, and to attract them, it may have to offer higher interest. Higher interest on government debt ripples into the rates you pay on a home loan, a car, a credit card. So a decision made in offices in Beijing can quietly nudge the cost of your everyday life. The big lesson is simple. In a connected world, Money is a web, and the threads run straight through your wallet. Watch who's holding the other end. Thanks so much for watching. If you got value from this, hit like, share it with someone who'd find it interesting, and subscribe for a new breakdown every week. And follow us on Instagram at zavrek.official for more. See you in the next one.